So the other day I asked you guys to drop some questions on the Packers, which I haven't gone through and read all of them yet, and I want to come in here and answer lots of these questions. So if you asked a question, I appreciate it, but I want to go through quickly and address lots of your guys' questions because if you asked it, probably someone else too has the same question, and we'll see. I'll give a short little explanation on each thing depending on the question. So first we have from Cody Moody. Says, would you consider being cautiously optimistic about our rookie wide receivers when thinking about the later games this season? Or do you think it'll take a few years to grind them to where we want? I know we're utilizing the run game, but still. Yeah, with these rookie receivers, it would make sense if, as the season goes by, they have built more trust with Aaron Rodgers. They've gotten this offense down more, which means they can probably produce at a higher level come later this season. And I think there's no question as the years go by, they're clearly going to become much better receivers. We see receivers and players across the NFL in general take time to develop. We saw Devontae Adams, it wasn't until a couple of years in where he really started to play very well. But I do think, there's a chance that Watson and Dobbs, start producing more later in the season. We've already seen the Packers, do their best to try to get the ball at times into Watson's hand and Romeo Dobbs, with the screen last week to Dobbs, a little, reverse pitch to Christian Watson as well, because they're both very dynamic with the ball in their hands. They're both very fast. We have seen, the ball spread around a ton with all the receivers here from Watkins, Lazard, a little to Dobbs, a little to Watson, not too much. But I bet that later this season we'll see some more action coming into those guys just as they develop and get better. Hopefully we'll see that. Then we have from Dylan, what position battles are you most excited for against the Bucs? That's a great question. I broke down lots of this in my yesterday preview video. I do think one is going to be this Packers offensive line versus a very talented Buccaneers pass rush. We have Shaq Barrett on their D-line, Vita Vea. So the Packers will have their hands full come Sunday. Yosh Nijman has played pretty good at left tackle. Elton Jenkins was back last week, and I expect him to play even better this week considering he has that first game after dealing with an ACL injury. He has that one behind him, and so hopefully he's getting better and better as the weeks go by, which I expect will happen. But that will be a good position battle to watch. What's another one? If we look at the Packers wide receiver situation right now is a little concerning with all these injuries here. It was already a little concerning because, just this year with our receivers here, there are some uncertainties there with, what they can do in the passing game because we see the Packers now really want to rely on the running game, which makes sense. I'd say it's our strong suit. And we'll see if come Sunday, if the Buccaneers are able to shut down the running game, will we be able to get things done in the past because their secondary is pretty solid overall. They've only allowed 13 points total, so that's going to be a good one to watch. Can the Packers get things going throwing the ball? I do not know. So those are two of the bigger ones, and obviously there's other things as well, but those are the first two that stick out in my mind. We have Willie. Is Watson going to get in rhythm soon and be a bigger part of the offense? Sort of similar to the first question, but we've seen the Packers try to get the ball in his hands. I think that they're going to do their best to do that more and more, and hopefully he can get some more opportunities like in week 1 where he had that go route, drops the pass, unfortunately. I expect, as I said earlier, that as time goes by that these guys will build some more chemistry and know the offense better and probably start playing a little better as the season goes by, hopefully. And then we have, so I just read this one. Looking at the Saints defense, went toe-to-toe with Brady and the Bucs before Jameis Winston went back to becoming the turnover machine. Without possibly Evans and Chris Godwin for the Bucs, could you see a legit defensive struggle Sunday? So I guess you're saying like a defensive battle on each side or, defensive struggle Sunday. Well, I think for the Packers, clearly without the Buccaneers having Mike Evans, helps the Packers defense a lot. Godwin and Julio could both be out as well. And I think for the Packers, we've seen them successfully get pressure on the quarterback. Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary have all gotten lots of pressure in these first 2 weeks. My big question for this Packers defense is, can we stop the run? Because Leonard Fournette is a very talented running back, and we've seen in the first 2 weeks the Packers haven't really been able to stop the run very well. Week 2 especially, I think Khalil Herbert averaged 6 or 7 yards per carry. So that's going to be a big test, especially without the wide receivers here. Can the Packers stop the run? So I think it should be more of a defensive battle come Sunday with all of the uncertainties and injuries with lots of these, offensive players. Then we have from Big Bill. I understand every Packers game is one to watch, but what games do you have circled in your calendar that interest you most this season? Ooh, that's a good question. Off the top of my head, Cowboys game should be fun. I guess it depends on Dak Prescott's health. The Rams, it's a big game as well. Also, the Vikings game later this year, depending on how they start to look. But those are a few of the biggest ones. Then we have from Redmo, long way out, and I know they've still got a lot to prove. Long season, a lot of ball game left. and safety may still be a final touch need addressing, but being that we do have something of an established defense, do you see Brian going aggressive on offense come next draft? Oh, we got a next 2023 draft question. I haven't thought too much about the 2023 draft at this time. The Packers have done a lot on defense, especially last draft. I think that just sort of depends on what happens this season, who stays around after the season ends, but I honestly don't know at this point. That's far out in the future, and I think that I don't know what's going to happen up to this point. We'll see as the time goes by. And then we have from Tyler Mann, do you imagine stopping the run to continue to be an issue or something that can be cleaned up? Yeah, so last week it was definitely an issue, even though we held them to 10 points. The Bears were able to run the ball a lot. And we've heard like Aaron Rodgers talk about this Packers defense. It's like a bend, not break defense where they more so want to take away those deep throws or do their best. It didn't work completely against Justin Jefferson. But last week, the Packers were able to really stop Justin Fields in the passing game, only allow him to throw the ball for, 70 yards. And they took away lots of that. But the run, they weren't able to stop it consistently. The Bears averaged 6 yards per carry. So hopefully this defensive line can play better against the run. And I think lots of the problems last week were missed tackles. So if the Packers can clean up those missed tackles, that'll help the run a lot. But also, we'll see if they're able to stop the run against Leonard Fournette this week. Then from XMC something there, what are your thoughts on our run game versus the Bucs rush defense? So I do think it's going to be much harder this week to run the ball against the Buccaneers. Bears, a much worse defense overall. But with Elgton Jenkins back, which helps the running game, with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon both playing well, even though the Bucs do have a good defense, especially their linebacker core with White, Levante David as well, I still feel like this Packers running game, though, or rushing attack, and these running backs are talented enough to still get things going. That's really the question. Can they, even though the Bucs probably know they're going to try to stop the run? So we'll see. I think we'll be able to get it done still, especially with Elgton Jenkins back out there. They've been blocking well in the running game. We'll see. Then from Zach P., how did the run defense start so good minus the first drive, then just collapse like it did? Well, I think in the final drive, the Packers were sort of expecting them to pass the ball more. They didn't. They had some more light personnel out there, and because of that and missed tackles, we weren't able to stop the run, as we discussed a little bit ago. Then from Bruce, I didn't see much improvement in the Packers' run defense against the Bears. Linebackers looked fair. The defensive line got whipped consistently. I think the successful goal line stand may have been a bad call. How did the D-line grade out? Well, I think for the defensive line, they did very well when it came to rushing the passer. I think we had 20 overall pressures in last week's game. Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, all getting pressure in the passing game. The run defense was a different story, as we've discussed. This has been a common question, as we see. The Packers struggled in stopping the run, and so we'll see this week if they can figure things out, if they're able to plug those run holes, see if Kenny Clark and those guys can fix things in that area. It's a question mark, and we'll see if they can do it, because so far the Packers have been one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. From Bet, when do you see this defense clicking like they are supposed to? Well, last week we did hold them to 10 points, which is a positive. Clearly they gushed us in the run. Crushed us, gushed us. I don't think that's a word. They ran the ball very well against us, and we saw a great performance from the secondary. It was against a Justin Fields, who hasn't been a great quarterback so far in his career. So this week is a great test against a much better Buccaneers offense. They are missing lots of their key weapons though at receiver, so we don't fully know how good this with even if the Packers play really well on defense, it's still against a much weaker Bucs team on offense, but it still is Tom Brady. So I think we're going to get to a lot of answers this week when it comes to maybe just how good this Packers defense looks. Because even though we did do a poor job at stopping the run last week, we did hold them to 1 for 7 on third down. We played well when we needed to in the red zone, holding them on fourth down. So the Packers defense, even though they may allow lots of rushing yards and lots of key moments on third downs in the goal line situations, they've played very well. So even if, the teams run the ball down the entire field, but we're able to hold them to field goals and not allow them to, score touchdowns, that could be an equation or a solution to win these games, as long as the Packers can, keep things going. Clearly, we never want to see them move the ball at all, but I'd rather them run the ball a ton and not be able to, perform in the red zone. Well, we'll see if this continues for the Packers defense. What do you think about the Packers signing Frederick Bourne? I don't know about that one. I have to look more into that, but the Packers, I think, right now with our receiver situation, it's a little bleak just because of these injuries, especially. I wonder though if in a few weeks, depending on how the NFL landscape is looking, how many wins the Packers have. Would they sign someone else? Maybe Frederick Bourne. I don't know about that. Then we have from Boyd Holland. Will the Packers win this game against the Bucs like they should, being that Mike Evans will be out, or will they find a way to lose on defense because they can't stop the run and pass at the same time? I think this is going to be a pretty evenly matched game. I think the Packers will be able to get it done. I think their defense will play well overall just because of mostly, the fact that Mike Evans won't be playing is a big loss for the Bucs. I think the Packers defense will find a way, and the Packers will just be able to run the ball a ton in this game. It will be more of a low-scoring game compared to compared to what I think people would expect because of lots of these injuries, but we'll see. Are the young wideouts going to shine against the Bucs? Romeo Doubs could shine considering the other injuries here. We'll see. The question mark is these, Watson, Watkins, Cobb, and Lazard. Who knows if they'll play? If not, it could be a big Doubs day. Maybe. We'll see. Are they a playoff contender, Courtney? Yes. I believe the Packers are a playoff contender. I think the defense will do enough, hopefully, throughout the season to keep things going. If they can keep getting stops in big situations, third downs, the red zone, the goal line situations, and if the Packers can keep running the ball as they have, I think the Packers can still be playoff contenders. Then here we have from Redmo 46, Rashawn Gary, 82% defensive snaps over the last 2 weeks. Preston Smith, 87% of defensive snaps over the last 2 weeks. Surely this isn't sustainable. How can the Packers address this? So, that is a good amount of snaps for Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. If you can keep them out there and they're not tired, it is obviously the best case scenario to keep those guys out there because behind them, we don't have as many talented pass rushers. They're okay, but they're not Rashawn Gary or Preston Smith level, with Garvin, with Kingsley and Igbari as well. But so far, it seems to be working, and I feel like it could be sustainable. And then from Mark, who's going to be playing wide receiver this game against Tampa? Depending on the injuries, that's a great question. It really depends on those top 4 injuries, Watson, Watkins, Lazard, Cobb. If all of them are healthy, it'll probably be similar to last week. Majority snaps to Lazard, Watkins, Cobb, and then we have Watson and Romeo Doubs after them. But if those 4 guys are out, it'll be a big Doubs day. We'll see what happens with the injuries. I think we already read a similar, we already read that one from How to Lose Fat Belly in 10 Simple Steps. And then we have Thrill Hill. Can we win a game in Florida? Yeah, that is a factor, going down to a hotter climate down there in Florida as opposed to Wisconsin. I think we can. Obviously, the Buccaneers are probably a little more suited for the weather, but I think the Packers can handle it. Then we have from Keith Bailey. I think it's time for the Packers to play Travis Fulgham and let Cobb retire and become wide receiver coach. What do you think? The Packers did just add Fulgham back to this roster, and because he was released not too long ago, added back to the practice squad with these injuries. I think that's sort of why they made the move. I don't think Cobb should retire yet. I think that even though he hasn't been super productive up to this point, there have been some key areas. Like I think it was a third down last week. Rodgers finds Cobb. So in some situations, Rodgers and Cobb, still have that connection. So I wouldn't want to see him retire up to this point. But Fulgham, who knows? Maybe he'll get some time this week considering there are lots of injuries. We'll see if he gets called up. And then here we have Papercraft. Packers need stop loss, and win. Yeah, I hope the Packers win too. And then we have from Tom C. I know more than you. All right. Appreciate the comment. Drop a like. And then we have from Snowboard Dan. Do the Bears still suck? Well, after last week, it looks like the Packers are still better than the Bears. So that's always a positive to see the Packers beating the Bears. But those are all of the questions you guys asked. I hope I got to all of them. I think I did. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe if you want to see more Packers content. And I'll see you guys next time.